What's up guys, it's Will from EDM Tips. So last week I created this how to make bass house video like Julian Jordan and STMPD RECRDS. It got a great response from you guys, so I decided to make part 2 today, which is where we're going to be concentrating on the break. If you want to see part 1, you can check it out there or there, and you can also download this project completely free below this video. I'm going to be doing it in Ableton Live, but you can follow along in whichever DAW that you use. So without further ado, let's hop into my DAW and get it done. Okay, so like the tutorial I did a few days ago on this bass house idea, I'm going to start with the idea, I'm going to reverse engineer it for you, but then I'm also actually going to create the break idea live so you see me make all the mistakes I make and go through the creative process. So here is the build and the drop is what we did in the last video, which you can check out above this one. Okay, so that's where we got to in the last video. We just worked on the drop. So this build up that I've done, let's pull that apart so you can see everything that I've gone into it, and then we'll work on this break together going side by side. Right, so first we have got the drum build up, and this is pretty much what you'd expect. You know, it's a snare, they get more intense, they get closer together. So let's have a listen. Now, if you remember, actually, before I start, in the last video we put a groove on the main drums to make them a bit more human feeling. We've taken it off the build-up drums because this is what happens if you put it on. So this is without the groove applied. In fact, I'll just play the bit where it's faster. And with the groove applied, it would sound like this. And we didn't want that, we wanted it nice and regular. So I just didn't apply it to this. Okay, so let's have a look at the programming. We've got quite a powerful snappy snare, and we got this clap just to give it more weight, and then interplaying it is this 808 snare, which is really light. It's just to give it some rhythm though. And add some interest and groove to the drum intro. So let's have a quick look at what I've done here and what the different sounds are. So we've got the build snare, which has gone up in pitch there actually, so don't worry, we'll go into that in a sec. So we've got the build snare, which is here, and this is from a Vengeance sample pack, and I've automated a frequency cutoff, and I'll show you that in a second. I've just got a short decay, no sustain, no release, just to make it really snappy. And then I've added, as I say, an EQ automation to take out the bass. But what I've also done is, you can see I've actually automated the pitch as well. So it goes up towards the end. And I've taken the bass out, so when it drops hard, boy, boing, boing, boy. And I've added a sausage fattener. Again, this isn't an Ableton plugin, of course, but it's not expensive to buy. You could use a saturator, which comes with Ableton or whichever DAW you're using as well. But I've used a sausage fattener. I've taken off this reviver for some reason. That's another third-party plugin, but I'm not using it, so don't worry about it. Okay, so that's the drums. Because basically the idea is you've got lots of elements all increasing building the tension. So when you hit that drop, you know, you're expecting it and you're really anticipating it. So we've got those drums, which you've just heard. Now we've got this scream sound, and this is to just add a bit of interest. And again, that's from a sample pack. So it goes down, and then on the second part of the break, of the build, sorry, it goes up. I just reversed the sound. And then here, because the sample ended here, I just duplicated the last portion of it, and then in Ableton you can just transpose it up in each little clip. So it's there 2, there it's 3, 4, 5, semitones, then 6 semitones, and it just gives it an even higher build. Okay, on to the next bit. We have got a full-on riser. So the first part of the break, sorry, the first part of the build, and then it breaks suddenly here, and then you go into the main build. So I've got this riser, and again it's just a sample which I got from Splice probably. You know, you don't need to create all these sounds from scratch. It's your job to put the right sounds together, and sometimes that does involve creating them from scratch, but most of the time it doesn't. Then we've got a nice hall kick, boom. Another one. And a crash. And we lead into the first one with a bit of a reverse crash. You can see I've just reversed this same sample and then faded it in with the clip. And I've also filtered out some of the sub bass so it doesn't clash with the hall kick, which has got lots of sub bass. Okay. Now we are onto the break bass, because we've got the main bass on the drop, of course, and that goes something like this. So we've got a separate bass for the break, or the build at the moment, but we will use it in the break idea as well. Before we go on, let me know if you like this in the comments. We've got loads more to get through, so give me a hell yeah in the comments below if you like this, and then let's continue. Okay, so break bass, as I was saying, or the build bass. It's just a sustained note on the root note of this track. Now this track is in the key of, let's see where I put the root note, A. Nice and easy, because if you're doing a track in the key of A minor, you're only using the white notes, so you don't have to worry about the black notes. It's very easy not to get lost on the keyboard there. So I've just got a sustained bass note held, because for any of you who've seen Peep Show and Superhands, the longer the note, the more dread. So that's what we're trying to do. We're just building that anticipation. So it's just a sustained note. I'm using a preset from this plugin Wavetable in Ableton 10, and again I'm automating the pitch and the bass frequency, taking the bass out so that the drop hits harder. Simple. Now this is the interesting bit. I've got this vocoder riff, and this took a bit more time to put together. Cool, don't know what he's saying, but what I did was find a sample again from Splice, and let's go through this chain one by one and I'll explain it. So the first thing I'll do is I'll turn everything off. I have to show automation there. And I'll just turn it off. Okay, and that's why, because it hits there. Right, so let's have a look at what's going on. First, I've just turned the gain down a bit so I can rein in some of those effects. Sorry, so I can rein in some of the volume, make sure it's a controllable level. And I've just chopped up the vocal and I've made it into a little repeating rhythm. Then, okay, no, it's a low guy voice anyway, so I didn't actually pitch it down at all, it just came like that. The next thing I've done is put on a compressor just to really squish it. So this is off, and this is on. And now this is the magic part. So I've put a vocoder on it, and this vocoder carrier channel is an instrument, like I'm triggering it by MIDI, and it's just a basic saw wave. This is using analog in the in Ableton, but you can use any synth for this. So I'm just feeding in a signal from this, basically, but you can't hear it because I've turned off the audio. But this is what it sounds like normally. So it's like a resound. but the reason that I've changed it to so you can't actually hear it is because all I'm using it for is to be a carrier signal for the vocoder. So what it's doing is it's going from the vocoder and then it's feeding into as the carrier signal to give the vocal a texture. So this is without the vocoder and this is with it. So it's almost like the synth that I'm using as the carrier is singing or rapping. So that's what a vocoder does basically. And I've just automated the formant there as well to do a similar type build. So lots of automation when it comes to builds. Again, EQ automation there. Take the bass out. Then I've got another compressor just to squish the vocoded signal together. So we can start closing them now. And now I've got my Haas effect, which widens out the sound. And the way it does that is by having a very short delay on the left signal from the right, so it splits it out and makes it wide. So this is with Haas off, and this is on. And I automate it off for the pre-drop vocal to bring that central, so then when the drop hits it's nice and wide again. Okay, so that is that build. Sorry, that is the vocoder part. Now I've got this big brass sound like in Fisher's Losing It, which sounds really weak on its own, but when it's coupled with the bass sounds as well. So this is without it. So it's still pretty dope, but with it, it just makes it like nasty. Like epic. And the way I did that was get just a foghorn sound, again probably from Splice, then put a delay on it, which I only automate on at the end of the sound so it can bounce off into the distance. So this is with no EQ or delay. That's the original sound, but those sub-frequencies, those lower bass frequencies are going to be clashing with my hall kick and whatnot, so that's why I put this EQ on. I've got a gain to control the... that's right, I want everything to be silent when this little incidental vocal happens, and that's why I've automated the gain off there, and as you can see I've automated the dry wet of the delay, so all together. And now the delay will start coming in here and then drops the volume there. And then that is pretty much it. Oh, I've got this tension builder as well, excuse me. It's just a very, very light textural sound that gives it rhythm. And again, it raises in pitch. I've done a pitch bend. Automated, and I've added EQ, I've added a little bit of reverb, an LFO tool to give it the pumping sidechain effect, and I'm just doing a low pass filter, rolling that up slightly, just all building tension. I've got another Haas effect on it, and then auto pan to make it bounce left from right. But it's all these all these subtle things that make a big difference when it's all put together. So this is our build-up. And then here's the incidental vocal. Give it up. Cool, so that is the build. Now, as I said, I want to build a break for you as well, but I haven't actually done this yet. So this is warts and all. This isn't me reverse engineering. This is just me doing it live. So actually, okay, I've done one little bit for the break. I found some drums. I want it to be a kind of trap half tempo break. So it's a real contrast from the drop, because it's all about contrast, and I also want it to be quite melodic, because the break is all about, the drop is all about on one note pretty much. It's all on A. So what I'm doing is, if you remember from the last lesson, I've got the riff. Which is kind of like a knife party type sound. So what I've done is I've copied that riff and I've pasted it into the break. And then I've put a simple reverb on it, and I've got 100% wet, and that just pushes it further back in the mix. So it's quieter, it's a bit softer, it's rounded, and then it also hints to what is to come. So having the riff play in the break allows you, it keeps it familiar to the listener. And then I've just got these beats so far. So as I said, I wanted this to be a bit more melodic, and I've got this break bass which we were sustaining. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that break bass and I'm going to make it change note, and it's going to be in the key of A minor natural still. So let's just write our little bass riff first. And these are all notes within the key of A minor natural. If you want more help on writing chord progressions and whatnot for EDM, then you can click the link that's either up there or up there. Okay, so first note. And then back to A. Simple. And then we'll have a little bit at the end. So we'll just repeat that. And I'm actually going to make this more quiet as well, because as I said, it's all about the contrast. So I'm going to automate a gain plugin. I'll automate it down a couple of dB. Let's see. And for this break loop, I'm just going to add a filter on it to give it a different effect, because it's sounding a bit vanilla. I want it to sound quite crunchy, the drum loop. So, like, that's pretty cool. And for the sake of, that's what I've done at the end of the riff. I increase the reverb time and then I fade it out, and that's so it can kind of sustain. See, look at that decay time. And that feeds into the build-up. So what I might do is I might put the scream. I might get some of these drums as well. Let's see what that sounds like. It might be too much. Or I might put just a clap sound there instead. So let's go and look at my drums. I like the 808 clap because that's a bit trappy. And then I'll just repeat the main clap. I'll take the snare out, it's too loud. And I'm going to grab all the snares, the claps, and then holding command, I'm just going to reduce the velocity which in turn reduces the volume. And then you could have some vocal in there as well. I mean, let's just try and copy this vocoded thing. It might be too much to repeat this one over and over. I know what we're going to do. We're going to take that out to the full riff and see what it sounds like. Might be weird. Now I'd probably do more work on these vocals. In fact, yeah, I'm gonna turn those off. I'm gonna kill them. I'd want something softer, like a female vocal over there. So what I'm gonna do really quickly on Splice is I'm gonna go and search for female vocal, if it actually works. And we are going to use the filter, and we are going to look for something in the key of A minor. And let's see what we've got. See what we got. Let me come naturally. She knows what she wants. Let me come naturally. But I don't want you. I put my life on it. That sounds pretty cool. Let's just have a little preview whilst it's playing over the track. Yeah. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm literally going to I'm going to just download that. No, I told you. I refuse to let you come naturally. So we are going to go back to my downloads, my fresh downloads. Okay, it's still downloading. The vocal's still downloading. I definitely downloaded it, didn't I? Here we go. Cool. I put my life. Drag, drop. We can see that this is 130 BPM because it tells us it's an A minor, which is perfect, but our track is in 126. So we need to make sure that this is warped at 130, and then it will change, and we'll choose Complex Pro because it's the best algorithm for warping vocals in Ableton. And now let's have a listen. I'm going to put a little EQ on there and a bit of compression just to make sure it does what I want. I put my life too much on bass. It. I put my life. I put my life on it. And we'll add some reverb. Let's see, we've got a room reverb. Let's see if that sounds good. No, it's not enough, so I'm going to use a specific reverb just for vocals. Now, I'd usually do this on the auxiliary channel, but for the sake of speed, I won't. I also want a delay on there. And a bit of a compressor before the reverb, but after the EQ. Cool, awesome, there you go guys. If you want me to build this into a full track, do let me know in the comments below. We've got the break, we've got the build, and now we've got the drop. I hope you've enjoyed this. God, that's got my heart racing. That's what you want from some dance music, a nice bit of excitement. I hope you enjoyed this guys. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for tutorials like this each and every week, and download the project file for this completely free below this video. Until next time, look after yourself, stay safe, cheers and happy producing.